People of Earth, we have come to upgrade your cosmic consciousness. DNA activation ready. In 3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome to Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership. I'm Lou Quinto.
And I'm Craig Anderson.
Craig, today we're going to have another interview, and we're going to have an interview with Bonnie Hagemann. She's the president and CEO of EDA, which is a firm out of Oklahoma City that does leadership development, training, etc. And Bonnie is the author of a book called Leading with Vision. It's the leader's blueprint for creating a compelling vision and engaging the workforce. And you and I, in previous episodes, we've danced around vision a little bit, but we've not taken the deep dive into vision. So I thought it would be a good idea to bring Bonnie on to talk about vision. So let's bring on Bonnie Hagemann. Okay, welcome, Bonnie. How are you today, Bonnie?
I'm great. How are you, Lou?
Good. And we are taping this program on National Women's Day. So happy National Women's Day. Yeah.
Thank you.
So even though this probably won't appear until April, but today is National Women's Day when we're doing the taping.
Today's the day. Yes.
Yeah. So Bonnie, Craig and I wanted to have you on because in the past, and Craig, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we've touched upon vision a few times, but we've really not done the deep dive into vision. And with everything that's going on today with COVID, I've got lots of questions. I know Craig does too about, does vision need to be adjusted with the COVID with different companies? But that's the deeper dive. Let's start off at the beginning by having you just give us a quick introduction about Bonnie Hagemann and Executive Development Associates.
Oh, sure. Okay. So, my name is Bonnie Hagemann. I am the CEO of EDA, which formerly known as Executive Development Associates. We have been in business for 39 years. I'm not the founder. So
I was going to say, did we start off at a very young age there, Bonnie?
I've had a little work done. I'm 90. So
you and Jane Fonda.
Exactly. No, we actually acquired the company in 2007. I had another consulting firm. And so EDA, though, we are known for our top of the house, which is working with the top 5% of leaders to do their executive development. And so that is everything from building a big corporate university to one-on-one C-suite and executive coaching. We also do some board work. And this year we are rolling out some pretty amazing technology that is designed to make culture visible to the leaders, the board, and the investors.
Wow. Terrific. Yeah. We've done several episodes on culture, that's for sure. And it's been one of those things where, we've got lots of questions about culture too. What's COVID going to do to culture, since usually culture really takes root, as you and I both know, when people are all together. And now you've got people, we're meeting people in their bedrooms and living rooms for the very first time, which is a little awkward sometimes.
It is a little awkward, yes. And it sort of levels the playing field when you see your boss's boss in their bedroom with their dog jumping up and down the bed behind you.
Exactly. Yeah. Or little kids coming running up behind them, right, asking for help with their homework as well. Exactly. So, but Bonnie, what we wanted to do is we wanted to talk to you about your book, Leading with Vision. Yeah. And I'm going to start off with I think it's going to be a simple question, but Bonnie, you can tell me that one. And what is vision?
Well, good question. So Simon Vetter, my co-author, would say, if you have a vision, it should be visible, right? So basically a vision is looking out, let's say 3 years, and it's seeing what your company is going to look like at that time. That's different than your mission. Your mission is, why do you exist? So at EDA, we exist to turn trends in executive development into great services and technology that create compelling cultures that last. Okay. Our vision is to be known as that, and also to be known with our technology. So it's different. And so a great vision, for example, might be something that other people can see visually. So when I talk about vision, I'll say it like this, like, let's paint the picture. So if you imagine a picture on the wall and you describe it, then that's what you're doing with a vision as a leader. You're describing what that picture is supposed to look like.
Okay, good. Because, and Craig, I know you've been in this situation before where we've worked on a retreat with different groups, and they want to create their mission and vision, and you just see the eyes roll up into the back of the head. They're like, oh no, not this again. Because
Right.
people think of wordsmithing and,
Yeah.
all of this that it takes, but they don't understand the importance of that vision. And many times it could be because once that vision is created on paper, they don't live it, and they don't do it. It's just up on a wall. Here's our vision, here's our mission. And most people can't give you the, as you just nicely did, the difference between a mission and a vision. They combine the two. And I know, Craig, you've had this situation. You work with companies on this with your business planning as well.
Yeah, I just had a big debate with somebody on LinkedIn over vision versus mission. And the vision for them is kind of the big flowery statement, and the mission was even more so of that. And so to me, at least how I work it is, I agree with you. Mission is kind of why we exist. Vision is what we're building and what we're going to look like in 3 years. I like to do it with my clients in a very concrete way so that we know when we win.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly. Exactly. Like you'll know, like if you do a really great job of painting the picture, then everybody has the same picture in their head.
Right.
And that means everyone can come along and straighten the picture if it's crooked.
Right.
Because we're not going the right way, we need to tweak it a little bit. So, having that picture is extremely important.
Sure. In fact, I always, my quick down and dirty is mission is who you are. Vision is what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's the difference between the two of them. So, but in that perspective, Bonnie, take us and tell us about how does vision, because I told you that when let's do a vision statement and everyone's eyes roll to the back of their head. Right. How does vision actually help companies become successful?
Yeah. Well, great question. The way it helps is if you have a compelling vision, then you get your employees wrapped around it, which that's a step process, which we can talk about that too.
Sure.
But if you have that, then what happens is you get everyone pulling in the same direction. So we all know of companies where you have passive resistors, where you have people who are not very engaged, where you have high turnover, you have a lot of sick days. Those are all indicators that they're not connected to the company and to where you're going. And being connected is extremely important. And for those of you who are financial people and you say, well, I don't want to talk about all the soft stuff, I just want to make the money. This is the money.
Right.
Because I can tell you, I can promise you that if you have connected, compelled employees, you will get more out of them than you can imagine. Like, people say the Gen Yers will not work hard. And that's not true. Because I know of workers who, if compelled, are willing to work all night long. In fact, I heard of one, it was a tech company, and this guy was in China. He put himself in the hospital. He worked so long and so hard trying to make this vision come to pass. And if you listen to like Elon Musk biography, you hear that same sort of concept in all the workers there, because he hires for people who can get on board with the vision.
Right. Yeah.
And
do
you
really matters.
No, go ahead, Craig.
It just matters. That's what I was going to say.
No, it absolutely matters. And this is, to me, it really starts flowing into employee engagement. And that's somewhat what you're talking about here, is when people can identify with that vision, they understand their role in it and they get more engaged. Is that something that you guys find as well with the companies that you're working for?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of research about employee connectedness. Mm-hmm. And that's this employee engagement like that you're talking about. So employee connectedness, the research shows, does actually increase production, decrease turnover, decrease sick leave, all of those things. And so, it's closely tied to employee engagement.
Right. And all those things you just mentioned go back to your financial person to say, look at all the money we're saving because we don't have the turnover. We don't have all the low productivity.
That's right. And, I know a few leaders who will say, I can get another person. Anybody's replaceable. We've all heard, leaders who say that. And, that's not always true. Because, let's just take Elon Musk out of the universe for a second. Now, is there someone else who could replace him on this earth that we think would have done what he did? I don't think so.
Right.
So that's just an example. And it's like that in your company. You're going to have a few people who are so talented and they're not replaceable. Like, you want to keep them. You want them to be able to contribute where they are.
Right. You brushed up against connectiveness, and I know in your book you talk about building connectivity, and in the book you describe using the story of Alukai is. Alukai. Okay, my Hawaiian isn't that great. So Alukai, and they make premium value sandals, basically.
You should buy their sandals, by the way. They're great sandals.
Are they? Okay, good. Well, Craig is on he's on a what are you, Croc mission. He's big on Crocs, so
not quite the same caliber, I don't think.
But Jim Harris, their CEO, talks about the importance of connectiveness. And one of the things that he does is he talks about connecting with each person to get them into their happy place by connecting them with the brand and to the company values, which should be along the line of family values as well, and creating an office that feels like home as part of that connectivity. Share a little bit more about that discussion. I know Simon did the interview, but I'm sure that
but they have a great culture, and that's the reason he interviewed them, and theirs is very like family. Right. And that is what they're trying to create, because they believe in the interconnectedness of life, and aloha, and the breath of life. And so all of those things are super important to them. But that's their culture, and it doesn't necessarily, no culture works in another company.
Right.
So that one works great for them, but the concept is the same. So regardless of where you are or what type of culture you want to have, you do want to help people find their place. And we talk about it as in terms of, you want to create the vision, you want people to get excited about the vision, and then you really want them to understand their part. And in the book, we talk about, we interviewed this playwright in Hollywood. And he said, everybody wants to have a part in the story. And if you think about it, every company is a story. And so if everybody has a part to play, they don't necessarily have to be the big star on the big screen. But when it comes to their part, they want to be the center stage on that part. And so if we can make people feel like you're the center stage on your part, then for most people, that's compelling as well.
Right. I mean, using that Hollywood analogy, Bonnie, there's a lot of people who have made a very good living out of being character actors. True. And they, they're not the star, they're not the headliner, but yet their part in movies, TV series, whatever it may be, is a character actor. And they take that part very seriously, even though they may only have 6 or 7 lines. They deliver them the best that they can.
I mean, think about soap operas.
Yeah.
I mean, those people probably get to go home every night. They don't have to be away from their families and have a great career and a long career.
Right.
And you're right. That's a great example.
Yeah. Do you think, Bonnie, that COVID may have highlighted some of that family value, because now, as I joked before, we're coming into people's living rooms and bedrooms on a daily basis, and people have been off on their own. They haven't, that group think in the office hasn't really rooted into them, because, hey, when I get done on my Zoom call, I'm back to being myself. Right. And do you believe that this will carry over then if we go back to either a full-time or a hybrid remote work?
Well, so it's funny because every 2 to 3 years, we do this research called Trends in Executive Development Research. And we bumped it up this year because we wanted to capture what was happening right now.
Right.
And so I've been writing all morning about this very topic.
Really?
So it'll be coming out, yes. But here's what
Any insight that you
I'm
can
going to
share?
give you some insights. This is
Okay.
you're the very first person to get to hear this.
Good.
So here's what we see. First of all, we're not going back 100%. So most companies, the research is indicating, will do a hybrid at best. Some will go 100% virtual and stay that way.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna see a lot more hybrid work environments where you're coming in a day or two or for part of the day, and then the rest of the time you're working from home.
Right.
So we're gonna see that continue. The silver lining that happened with the COVID is that we did get to see each other differently. And, leaders were able to see for the first time into the homes of their employees. So, when someone dresses up, puts their best clothes on, and they show up at work, we don't really realize what they might be going through at home.
Sure.
And so it really opened the eyes of a lot of leaders, like, oh, your mother's right there, your child is there, you're having to take care of them while you're trying to run a team of customer service reps, or there are lots of things that happened that made them more aware of people's environments, and it actually made the leaders more compassionate. So what we saw, our leaders become more in tune to their employees, to their emotional and physical needs, as well as being more flexible. And so what we are saying in the trends is we hope that part sticks.
Right. Yeah. We did an interview, Craig, remember, with Donna Marcus. She's the COO of a law firm that has they're in 5 states and they have 9 offices. And we interviewed her and talked to her about the effects of COVID in a law firm. And as we discussed with her, sometimes we don't associate a law firm with a company or a business,
right,
even though they are. But we've got the old LA law, Arnie Becker, and type of image in our head. Yeah, well, I'm dating myself. I do that a lot. So, but one of the things that she said in there was that they became so used to seeing people in their own environment, and they had different areas where they would bring their pets in and everyone showed their pets, that one of the benefits is that the firm went ahead and now, as one of their benefits, provides pet health insurance.
Oh, that's great.
And so I just thought, wow, what an incredible concept. But you're right. We've come into that. And I know Craig and I have talked about empathy and compassionate leadership to the nth degree. And he and I think we've agreed on, we're going to continue to see empathy truly being a trait that companies are going to be looking for in leaders in the future, where in the past, maybe they didn't look at that.
Not even maybe. They definitely, most leaders, I think, were lacking in that, really in-depth understanding. But to be fair, we weren't taught that. No. That was going to be the thing that made it, in business school, that's not what they focused on. Right. And so I think we'll see business schools change as well, hopefully.
Right. Well, in fact, go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to say that when we were talking about the vision into your employees, that camera goes both ways.
That's true.
And so a lot of the literature I was reading over the last year was about how did the leaders have the courage to be vulnerable? And that triggered the whole chapter you have in courage, as well as the fact that we don't teach these things in business school. So talk a little bit about why you thought courage merited an entire chapter in the book, and what the takeaways are.
Well, I'd love to. First of all, one of the things that I'm involved with is, and I'm going to come back to the book for a second, but I co-founded a network of women who had completed board governance program at Harvard University. And so we have 175 members in 22 countries. And we're doing a book. It's coming out in September. It's called Courage to Advance. And it's their stories. It's like the highest level they've achieved, which is very high, big public company, corporate boards, and CEO seats, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And then one of the hardest things they've ever been through and how they got through it. And that also has a whole chapter on courage, because it is impossible to achieve high level things without courage. Mm-hmm. So to come back to leading with vision. So out of our trends research, and I believe it was 2009 or maybe 2011, we started to see visionary leadership rise to the top of what's needed for executives. And so we started looking around to say, who does this well? Who teaches visionary leadership? And we couldn't find it. And so there's very little out there. So we created it. That's where the book came from. We built a program around that. We did a lot of work around it. And so as we were unpacking it, what we began to realize is there were some specific components. And the first one was culture, connectivity, clarity, and courage. So, so that was sort of the 4 C's that we came up with. But to talk about courage specifically is, you guys know this, in your brain, the amygdala, right? You guys know, and it causes you to do what? I know you know.
Run.
Yes.
Fight
or flight.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Fight or flight. Yeah.
So you're exactly right. So the amygdala inside of us is protecting us. And what happens, and the analogy I often use when I'm speaking about this, is if you go on an African safari and you see a big African tree on a big African plain with a herd of elephants underneath it, and there's a young elephant out to the side, that young elephant is out there for a reason. And the reason is it's being disciplined. And so what's happened is the matriarch is facing that young elephant. It's in timeout.
Wow.
And so why is that a punishment? Well, the punishment is because an elephant is a herd animal, and they don't feel safe outside of the herd. And so that young animal is feeling a lot of pain because it doesn't feel safe. And so that's exactly what happens with visionary leadership. When you step out to create a vision, you are stepping out of the herd. We're herd animals too. We like to be liked. We like to be in the crowd. We like to be a part of something, as we felt tremendously during COVID.
Sure.
But when you step out with a vision, you have stepped out. You're no longer safe. You will be criticized. You could fail. And so the reason we spent so much time talking about it is because it's so important to have courage. And, it's just like, it doesn't have to be like you have great testosterone, so you just feel strong all the time. It's not like that. It's just being brave and pushing past your fears and stepping out there with courage.
Right. But you also talk about courage as being vulnerable as well.
It is. Yes. And so they're really like 2 sides of the same coin. So what we talk about by being vulnerable is not only, are you stepping out there with trying something new, but you are vulnerable. You're vulnerable to fail. And so visionary leadership actually becomes even harder the higher up you go. So you know how people get into companies and you think, why isn't that company innovating? Like they might be a big, well-known Fortune 500 name, and you can just see like you're in trouble. You have to innovate. Yeah. But they don't. And you think, why? Well, because let's say you've got $1 million a year salary, and or more, right? And what you're doing.
You don't need to share my bank account with everybody.
Yeah, sorry,
right now,
Lou, I just outed you, everybody. So you're making $1 million plus a year, all these perks and benefits, and what you've been doing for the last 20 years has worked and is still working. So even though you can see it coming, do you risk it? It's like, because a CEO, for example, who fails at a level like that is out. They're out. It's the riskiest job in the company.
Right.
And so, so that is the reason, you're vulnerable in many ways. And it's just being, the other piece is a real true visionary is usually an authentic person. And it's that sharing of yourself. And so, there are lots of great examples out there, but today I'm really obsessed with Elon Musk because I just got Starlink. So he's a great example, right? Like he shares, about some of the hard things that he's been through and how driven he is. And then he's so driven that he actually wears himself out. And so, you can see some of that stuff in him being authentic about that.
Right. Do you think, Bonnie, one of the things just in leadership that I've seen, and, there's obviously the salary and the risk with going out on a limb and taking more risks at the higher you go. But at the same time, and I wonder if you see this in your research or just in your experience coaching, is they also carry so much more responsibility. It's one thing to go crazy and take risks when it's you and 5 people.
Yes.
You know, I used to work at Chase, and I used to just boggle my mind of what's it like to be responsible for the work lives of over 100,000 people based on what you decide.
Yeah. Yeah, that is such a great point. And I'll tell you, as the owner of a smaller company, that, that every time you add payroll, it's a responsibility that you feel. And so, yes, it's absolutely something that any leader thinks about. If they're not thinking about that, then they're selfish and shouldn't be in leadership.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, Bonnie, that you touch a little bit on, but I want to go back to, and in one of the chapters called Professor or Poet, you talk about painting the vision.
Yeah.
Now, creating the vision is one thing, obviously. Now it needs to be communicated in order for it to be implemented.
Right.
And so talk to us a little bit about how does a leader, and I'm not going to talk about a Chase or an Elon Musk or anything, but say I own a company that's 25, 30 people. What do I need to be doing to be painting that vision so that people are buying into it?
Yes, and let me just give a caveat here. The visionary leadership works from Fortune 500 companies to leading your household.
Good. I'm glad you pointed that out.
Exact concepts. So it does not matter if you're on a team, project, division, running a small company, running a nonprofit, running your house. All works the same. So, so here's what you have to know. First of all, you have to know someone has to start. And that's the CEO or leader or head of the family or whoever you are. So someone has to start. And if the vision isn't compelling to you, it's not going to be compelling to anybody else. So you're the owner of a 25-person company, then come up with a vision that means something to you, so that you get up and are excited every day. We talk about Patagonia, and when they started, he said, Yvon Chouinard said, we had to have a workplace where people came to work on the balls of their feet, taking the stairs 2 steps at a time. Now, think about that. When's the last time you took the stairs 2 steps at a time to go to work? Now you probably do, because you have a great job, right?
I was going to say, Bonnie, I'm 61. I haven't taken stairs 2 steps at a time for probably 20 years.
Well, I actually love my work, and it's hard for me to stop working because I love it. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, get into something that's truly compelling. So the CEO needs to set a vision that they are excited about, that person. Then they need to get an idea of the picture and half bake it. So sit down and in your mind, start thinking through, what does that look like 3 years from now? And begin to write that down. So that, what's a day in the life of you and the company and the employees 3 years from now? Just draw out the day in the life. And I actually have a really good course on LinkedIn Learning called Vision in Action. And I have some CEOs on there, and they're talking about how they did it. And so, if you happen to have LinkedIn Premium, you can watch those for, as part of your package. You may be able to buy them too. I don't know. But one of them is Mark Helm, and he's the CEO of DeLisi Brothers in Oklahoma City, which is a concrete and aggregate company. And they're well known. They have a great reputation. They're pretty sizable for the region. And what he said, I told him about how to do it. He said, I can do it. And he came back to me, and he really had done it. He had three pages of what he saw. And I said, that's perfect. Now that's your half-baked picture. Right. Now you take it to your senior team to finish a little further, not fully bake it, but get it further. And then you take it out to the employees so that they can start to look at their part and say, oh, that's the vision. Here's how I personally can help. Here's how my team can help to achieve that vision. So once everybody together bakes the vision, then everyone feels like they're a part of that.
Sure.
I love that. The work I do with my clients on theirs is we have kind of the vision at the top of the house, and then every level down, everyone has their own plan tied up to the top, and everyone has how their vision tied into that job. And you start getting that. That's how you start pulling a team together, is to have that vertical integration. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And imagine, changing from a company, let's say you're 25 people, and imagine being the CEO who's coming in every day trying to get people to do their job, just do your job, to having, 25 people all pulling the same direction. That's a game changer.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, in the book, it's great because you talk about all of this stuff. And then in the book at the end, you give a six-step plan, I guess, would to be creating this blueprint for creating a vision. You'd want to just, as if you're giving a TED talk, and I know you've given one or two in the past, okay, give us the Reader's Digest condensed version of those 6 steps, with the first one, which I just think is just well put, which is imagining the invisible.
Yes, exactly. So, I love that one because we actually have a picture, and it's an airplane flying, but the shadow is spaceship. And, it's like you have to imagine something that isn't there to be a visionary leader. And, that's one of the hardest things of working with senior executive teams, is to come in and say, okay, everybody, now we're going to imagine the future. So you can imagine how that goes. But that's really what we need to do. And so that's why, ideally, if I were working with a company, I would take the CEO and try to get them to half bake it before we ever get to the senior team, because that makes that conversation go a whole lot better. But yes, so we start with imagining the invisible, and then we vet the vision. So you imagine what's possible, you vet the vision. That's where you test it. Is this something that it doesn't have to feel absolutely possible. It's okay if it feels a little impossible, but that we realize we can put the team together to try to reach this goal and achieve it. So we're going to vet it, and then we want to create options, and back to that. So a part of vetting the vision is that whole buy-in stage down through the layers of the company. Then creating options. So when I talk about creating options, I like to use the stock market as an example. So many of you have heard about options in the stock market. Well, all that is that I'm going to pay a little bit today for the option to buy a stock at this price later. So you pay for options.
Right.
And the same thing in companies. So this is what I say to a CEO and a senior team would be, we have to pay for options. So here's the path we're planning to take to reach our vision. What is an option that we could put some money into to run dual paths? And a great example of that is Airbus. So Airbus is a German company, and they have their traditional Airbus manufacturing, where they create airplanes, parts, and all that. And then they created an Airbus Innovation Center, and they put it in Silicon Valley. And they had a Silicon Valley leader run it, and put one of their Airbus executives under the Silicon Valley leader. And they did that so that it would truly be different. And then they said, now come up with some stuff to take us to, that we can take to market in 4 years, that we couldn't get done in our big bureaucracy. And they have. So you can go check out their website. They've come up with a drone that people can fly, and several other really cool things that are ready to take to market. Okay, let me keep going. So creating options, deciding for change. You can't reach a vision if you're not willing to change. It's impossible. So you have to make that decision, decide what has to change. Communicating effectively. Communication, a lot of people say like, yeah, that's leadership 101. Well, it's leadership 101, 102, 103, 104, because if you ever stop working on your communication skills, you'll start going backwards or downhill. And we've seen through COVID that great communication is always needed, and it's especially needed during times of crisis. So you have to be able to communicate very well. And then you have to foster understanding. And fostering understanding is when you have employees who truly understand how what they do contributes to the actual impact that the company's having. So we call it Lift 6. And that's the process of getting through all of that.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. It's a good plan that people who are listening right now or watching us can start to actually put pen to paper to be able to do that. Because, you know, as we all know, every company has experienced lots of change in the last year of COVID, and it's only going to continue to change as things become more consistent with business practices and processes in the new whatever post COVID world that we're going to be in. And so, one last question: do you see a lot of visions changing, altering?
I'm so glad you're asking that, because that's what I wanted to say. I was like, I got to say one more thing. So
reading your mind, Bonnie. I'm reading your mind.
Exactly. We can just sense it through the computer. So that's the other piece, is the silver lining of all of this is that people who were afraid to change their visions or revisit them and really make them compelling. Now there's no reason to be afraid, because if you don't change, you're probably going to fail anyway.
Right.
And so now is the perfect time to revisit, recreate, reinvent yourself, and really come out with a new and compelling vision and get your people involved. And if I could give you one example that everyone will recognize. So back in the early 70s, Bill Gates and Microsoft came up with a vision to put a computer on every desk and in every home running Microsoft software.
Mm-hmm.
That's their vision. Now, think about that. 1970.
Oh, yeah.
Did anyone have a computer on their desk or in their home? Right?
No.
So, look at it today. Like, did they do it? They did it. And
they also got taken to court for it because the government thought it was a monopoly.
Yes, that's true. But I am talking to you right now on a computer running Microsoft software.
Yeah.
It's on my smartphone. It's on most people's smartphones.
Yeah.
And I have to say, they just keep doing great things like Microsoft Teams and all that. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, Microsoft and Apple have really changed the way that we live. There's no question about it. So, and then the way we work. So, okay. Well, at this point in the podcast, what we like to do, Bonnie, is wrap things up by just going through some key takeaways. So, Craig, why don't you lead us off with your key takeaway of our interview with Bonnie Hagemann?
There's too many. I think there's just too many that I've been sitting here. Every time I think I settle one, I come up with a new one. I really think the big one for me was this idea that, you've confirmed what we've been kind of theorizing here, is that we're really not going back to what is normal. And as much noise as we may see, a lot of the CEOs you're talking to are coming to the conclusion the hybrid's the way to go. And they're already thinking about, how am I going to build a culture? How am I going to tie around the vision to do that? So I think that for me is the big takeaway today, is that, the research is starting to show it really is true. We're not going back to where we were.
Yeah. And my big key takeaway, Craig, is that next time I talk to Bonnie, I know I'm going to have to pull out my pre-med books and make sure I know what part of the brain does what.
That's a great takeaway.
So, but no, my key takeaway is the courage part of it. Really visionary leaders have to have courage. They need to have courage to create their plan for the future, or how they see the future. And then they need to be courageous enough to put it in front of people and communicate it and say, this is where I see us going. And I want your buy-in and I want your support. And to get that buy-in and support through the different levels, as opposed to just creating a vision and going, here's our vision. And everyone looks at it and goes, okay, great, hang it on the wall and it'll be in the break room and we'll be able to look at it. But it's that courage to really say, no, we're going to make this happen. And that's my key takeaway. So Bonnie, what's your key takeaway of your time here on Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership with Craig and I?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. I watch your stuff on LinkedIn and I'm always impressed with how professionally it's done and how great your topics are. And I'm really honored just to get to be on your program. So thank you for that. And, on International Women's Day, I just wanted to come back. And I know you won't be watching this on International Women's Day, but as you're talking about courage, so for the women, in my network and around me, I have a picture of the fearless girl who is the statue on Wall Street. And if you think about that, it's a young girl, she's standing with her hands on her hips and she's facing the Wall Street bull. And someone put it up there on International Women's Day. I think it was State Street, did it overnight, and it just appeared one International Women's Day. It was really awesome. Now it's known all over the world. But if you think about that in terms of courage, that it's not that girl. What's cool is, she's afraid. She's got to be afraid. She's standing in front of the bull, right?
Right.
And she's little. And so, that's what courage is like, do it anyway. Just be brave. You can do this. And before you say visionary leadership is too hard, just stop and take a look around your room, just wherever you are, because every single thing that you see started with a vision.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. So Bonnie, if people want to reach out to you and contact you through EDA, how can they do it?
Easiest way to get a hold of me is LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out, feel free to connect. All of these concepts are in the book, and you can watch the book, read the book, listen to the book on Audible. So, a lot deeper dive in how to do it. And then we also have a course on leading with vision, and then a vision in action on LinkedIn Learning.
Terrific. And when did you say the next book's going to be coming out? Which is
September
going to be on
in the
courage?
United States and December internationally. And
Okay.
but please look for the new book. Please get it, pre-order as soon as we get it up. It should be coming up on Amazon and everything soon. And so, or if you want big orders, you can call us directly.
Terrific. Terrific. Well, we'll have to have you on again when the next book comes out so that we can talk about that as well. So Bonnie, we appreciate you joining us today on Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership. We hope all of our listeners and viewers have gotten some great information about leading with vision. And again, if you have any questions, further questions, contact Bonnie. I'm sure she'll be more than happy to connect with you and answer them. So Bonnie, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Craig.
All right.
Lou, that was a great interview. Thanks for inviting Bonnie to join us on the podcast. I really picked up a lot today.
Yeah, she's definitely she's got a lot of experience in the area, and she's a wealth of knowledge. And just hearing some of the people that she's networked with, you can tell that the depth and breadth of her experience in engaging with those people quite significant.
Yes. And I think if we can get her back on when she gets that next book out in the fall, that would be a great thing for us to bring on to discuss. Yeah. So that's it for this episode of Q&A on Breakthrough Leadership. You can find us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on our website, qaleadership.com. Catch all our videos there. We're also available on all your favorite podcasting platforms, so you can catch us there as you're driving to and from wherever it is you go, because we know you're not going to work still. So until next week, I'm Craig Anderson.
And keep your hands washed. Keep your distance. I'm Lou Quinto.